Alrighty, welcome back fellas. Today we got a bit of a challenge because I'm going to try to rank the top 10 LRs now that we are neck deep into the 10th anniversary. Hopefully you guys will enjoy the vid. If you do, you know what to do. Of course, drop a like, subscribe to the channel, comment down below your thoughts on the list and what you guys may change to make it more proper to your personal opinion. Let's go ahead and get started. So before we dive into some of the orderings and everything, I just want to point out, you guys may have noticed, we have a 1A, 1B kind of situation right here. So obviously you probably can tell who's going to go there, but we have that set up. We also have down here a section for LRs to consider. And the reason why I have that, as you guys may notice, is that we have more than 10 LRs to talk about in this vid. So obviously not everyone can be in the top 10, but there are some LRs who I think are worthy of the conversation, even if they may not necessarily be top 10 LRs at the end of the day. So I just want to go ahead and kind of set it up like that. Now let's go ahead and get started. So first thing I'm going to do is put the LRs to consider who I think should go there. So I guess some options like are going to be like Physical Janemba, Tech Gogeta, the two Super Saiyan Blue Evolved Vegetas. Let me go ahead and put them there. Buhan for sure I think belongs there. Let me see. There's Carnival Gohan. I'll put him there. Who else am I missing? I know I'm missing a few probably. MEY I think will be there. And also the Super Saiyan Trio. There we go. So I knew I was missing some people, so actually conveniently that does leave 10 kind of characters left to talk about, but I think this is kind of like the right order for me in terms of LRs to consider. Let's go ahead and get started though with our number 10 spot. So we'll work our way up to 10 through 6. I'll take a bit of an interlude there, talk about these LRs to consider, and then we'll end it off with our top 5 to make it a bit interesting, right? So we'll do it like that. But yeah, so number 10 for me, that's going to be going to HL Full Power Frieza. So when it comes to Frieza, I was a bit nervous when this EZA first got announced, but this character is actually really good, not just for myself, but for a lot of people. And really, it comes down to the fact that a lot of the 10th anniversary hard content, if you will, nowadays, is centered around short-term fights, or short phase, short-term fights, where it's only going to be a few phases. Like, think for example, like Formidable Foes, right? Like those stages, they have 4 boss fights, so it can be tedious, but each fight is only really 2 phases. That may take about 4 to maybe 6 turns at most, and that is where Frieza shines the best, because Frieza, he has a lot of built-in damage reduction, right? 20% to start, plus another 20% per attack received, and also in slot 1, he's getting another 30% damage reduction. So altogether, that's 70% damage reduction in slot 1. For the first 6 turns, right, he has a bunch of boosts to his attack and defense. So Frieza, it kind of makes sense because of his canonical kind of design, right, where in Namek, right, in the show, he was strong to start off in full power, and as the fight progressed, he got weaker. It makes sense in that sort of design. So here, for like short phase fights, this Frieza is so powerful and so good. And obviously, he can stack attack, he can stack defense, so that's going to be valuable, but this character is really good for short phase fights, and honestly because of how well he can perform, especially on some of the really good teams nowadays, like for example Planetary Destruction under a Broly lead or something like that, even being under a Gogeta lead with successors, this character can be really fun to use, really good to use. So for me, I think number 10 is a good spot. I will say there are some issues with Frieza where if a fight takes too long, which some of the more recent Red Zone stage fights, they take a bit longer than 6 turns, then Frieza will lose a bit of his power, so that can make him a bit weaker, but still, he still has the damage reduction, he still has the ability to stack, so I think for me, number 10 is a good spot for him. Okay, moving on to number 9. So number 9 is going to be going to Great Ape Vegeta, Saiyan Saga Vegeta, and for me, Vegeta, the thing about him is, with his EZA, he got a massive boost in value in my opinion, because he is now able, with the super attack effects, to boost his defense, so that was something that he didn't have beforehand. Now with the EZA, he can do that, so that's very, very important, of course, Also, I mean, the 18 key still does AoE super, so that's really good, of course. The passive skill is really awesome, though. So, with the passive skill, of course, he does have that intro skill versus Goku. This is not a mandatory thing, but it's nice to have it if you can get it. But this isn't quintessential for him in terms of his value. What is important is the fact that he has 20% built-in damage reduction, he has built-in guard against all attacks, and also in slot 1, he has extra 40% damage reduction. So in slot 1 in total, he has 60% built-in damage reduction, plus the guaranteed guard against all attacks. And also, I mean, if you're increasing his ki, right, when he's attacking everything, when the guard's activated, he's boosting his defense even more. So this guy can be a very good slot 1 character. I wouldn't go so far as to say that he's the best slot 1 character, but still, he is really powerful in that sort of role. Of course, he does have the Great Ape transformation, which if you need it, it can be very useful. The condition may be kind of annoying because HP has to be 40% or less. That basically puts you in like a near-death kind of situation because it's very easy to lose a lot of HP, so that can be kind of annoying. But still, having the Great Ape transformation is good. Him in his base form is really, really awesome. And also, he's on some really good categories like Giant Ape Power, which is led also by the Super Saiyan 3, Super Saiyan 4 GT Goku, who can provide support for him, of course. He's on successors for the Gogeta lead, getting that extra 50% as well for the lead, so this Vegeta is on some really good categories. So for me, I think number 9 is going to be a good spot for him. I will say, the reason why I have him above Frieza is because, we talked about how Frieza, if a fight takes too long, Frieza will kind of regress in terms of his power. For Vegeta, that's not the case because, with Vegeta, there is no part in his kit where he gets weaker as a fight takes longer, right? If anything, he's the same character. You need to focus on giving him Saki, you need to focus on trying to get him in slot 1, and then he's going to be the same character pretty much throughout the entirety of a fight. So I kind of value that consistency with him more. I saw some people joke about how he's maybe like top 3 or something, or like there's something like that, like a lot of praise for him, but it speaks to his value that he is getting that sort of praise by some people because he is a really good LR in my opinion, though I think number 9 is still a good spot for him compared to the other 8 that we still have to talk about on this list. Alright, number 8. So for me, number 8, I think there may be some flack I'm going to get for this kind of pick right here, but number 8 for me is going to be going to the Super Saiyan 3 Gotenks. Now, I know a lot of people are going to be saying the Gotenks probably should be higher on this list. I know for a lot of people, with like the Memorial Dragonstone, right, where you can get like a 10th anniversary in LR, a lot of people are considering and probably have already chosen to go ahead and pick up this Gotenks if they already have some of the 10th anniversary characters because they love that Gotenks so much. And when it comes to Gotenks, I will say, he has some really great opportunities, some really great value to offer you as a unit, even at 55%, because when we look at this character, the 12 and 18 key, he's raising attack and defense, that's good. 18 key debuffing with the defense is really good as well, because that can be useful for a lot of fights now. He gives himself a lot of keys, an orb changer, he's boosting his defense and attack when taking an attack. He has 22% damage reduction to start a fight, which, again, a lot of content benefits short form fights and characters like Gotenks where they're ready to go out the gate, so this 22% damage reduction is good. When there is another final trump card ally on the team, he's getting another 33% damage reduction, which, to be fair, there's a lot of final trump card allies who are really good. Like if we look at the category, of course, you got the 2 10th anniversary fusions, so Gotenks is going to be fine in that sort of regard. If we go back here, of course, he's still boosting his stats with more ki and additional supers, and this is the important thing about Gotenks, right, where when receiving a super, regardless of where he is or what type of super it is, he has a high chance to get defense plus 777%, and when it is a ki blast super, he's getting another 44% damage reduction and counters the super with ferocious power. So for Gotenks, he's got a lot of value there, and also his active skill can, boost his defense by 77%. I believe that's multiplicative, so that's going to be nice. The conditions are pretty straightforward, so this character can be really good, and honestly, his potential is really nice. In fact, if we talk about him at his best, I think him at his best could be a top 6 LR. Like, with everything going right for him, with his peak potential, everything, like the linking, everything, I think that character could jump up a few spots. However, the same issues that plagued him on his release still kind of exist to this day, where ideally, you probably would want to run him slot 1, maybe you could put him slot 3, probably not slot 2, I would say, because at that point, you're not really maximizing his value. But especially in slot 1, the thing about Gotenks is a lot of fights hit hard nowadays, and for Gotenks, if he gets this defensive boost, that is going to be helpful. But if he doesn't get the defensive boost against super attacks, he is going to get hurt for a good amount of damage because he has no built-in guard, he doesn't have any chance to dodge to be safe, he's relying on the 55% damage reduction, and as we all know nowadays, 50% damage reduction for a lot of characters isn't necessarily good enough to protect you from that damage that you can see from supers and sometimes from some normals, but mostly supers, right? So for me, Gotenks, I think the fact that he is a coin flip type of character, the fact that this 22% damage reduction is only temporary, those things kind of speak to the fact to me that Gotenks has a great ceiling, but also a floor, and the floor can be kind of devastating. So I think number 8 is a good spot for him because on average, he's still a really dominant character, especially when he gets those things going for him, but I don't want to put him too much higher than that, I will say that. All right, number 7. So number 7 is going to be going to a character who I think, I actually will say I think this character could be tied for number 6, but for me, number 7, I'm going to go ahead and put the Super Saiyan 2 Gohan. So, Super Saiyan 2 Gohan, the thing about this character is he is, for one, a very beautiful character. His animations are so good, his art is so good, so if I want to glaze Gohan a bit, his art and his animations are insane. But when it comes to this character, he provides a lot of cool things as well, right? With the super attack effects, he's boosting his attack and defense like Gotenks. He's able to actually debuff a bit better technically than Gotenks because he's able to do it with a 12 key, so that's good. But with his passive skill, there's some interesting things about him. So first of all, with this intro, right? This intro is really easy to do, of course, but this intro feels like something that Super Saiyan Blue evolved Vegeta for the 10th anniversary character. It's something that he should have gotten, right? Where for Gohan, right? He's launching an additional that has a medium chance to become a super per existing enemy within the turn up to 5 times, right? So 5 enemies total in a turn, makes sense. And also, he's launching on top of that 2 additional guaranteed super attacks for 4 turns. So This feels like something that Vegeta should have had, and the thing is, for Gohan, this is really good, because for Gohan, the more attacks he's doing, right, it's able to boost his ki and his attack and defense up to 80%, so that makes him stronger. He has a great ki, built-in attack and defense at a good stat level, I would say, built-in guard, 20% damage reduction, which on its own is not too great, but still he has that there, which is helpful. Boosting his ki per ki sphere obtain, he's boosting his defense when receiving an attack, boosting his attack when attacking, and also starting from the 5th turn from the character's entry, so turn 5 to 7, he's able to further boost his attack and defense with 18 or more ki, and also get guaranteed crits, and also his active skill, which is one of the most beautiful animations in the game, does give him a lot, right, where the activation conditions are not too difficult, even though they may seem a bit daunting, they're not that bad, but with the active, right, he's boosting his attack, he's doing good damage, he's giving himself 24 ki, and he's giving himself a boost of 58% attack for one turn, so that means he could do even more damage. And I will say right now, from experiences, right, because I have a 55% Gohan in my account, my Gohan at 55% is doing more damage in one 18 ki super than my 69% Carnival LR family Kamehameha Gohan does with like 2 or 3 super attacks back to back, additionals and all that. That says a lot about Gohan's damage in my opinion, where he does a lot of damage. So the damage-wise, I really do love what Gohan has to offer. When it comes to Slot 2 or Slot 3, this character is one of the best to ever do it, in my opinion, because this guy, it feels like he doesn't take damage when he's in Slot 2 or Slot 3, taking attacks after he does his supers, because he's just handling business. He's already doing a lot of boosting to his stats, right? He's able to further boost himself here, boosting his defense and everything, so I think Gohan, when it comes to Slot 2 and Slot 3 especially, this guy is built different, in my opinion, in a lot of ways, because once he's there, once he does his attacks, he's really good. Now, when it comes to why people don't like Gohan in general, and why I kind of hold some criticism towards Gohan, it comes down for me personally to 2 things. One, which is kind of more so personal, I would say, to me and like a select few people, is that I wish Gohan provided some form of support. Like, we'll look at some of the other characters on the list, like the Gogeta and the Vegeta fusions, even like Beast and GT Goku, they provide support to allies. And Gohan, yes, his support, I guess, is his damage, if you want to argue that, but really, he's not giving ki to allies, he's not giving additional stats or nothing. So if he had some form of support, I would be a big fan of that. The other thing, and this is the thing that people really don't like about Gohan for a lot of people in the community, is that Gohan is not necessarily a Slot 1 character. Now, to give a bit of a devil's advocate kind of case to that and to defend Gohan, if you will, the thing about Gohan is he can work in Slot 1 in a situation where all the attacks in Slot 1 are after Gohan does his attacks. So obviously in Slot 1, you'll see attacks show up before and after the character does their supers. But sometimes, and I've had it happen recently, in Slot 1, all the attacks will show up after the Slot 1 character does their supers. So in that situation, Gohan could technically be argued as a Slot 1 character, but obviously, in terms of a general usage, Gohan isn't quite a Slot 1 character, and that bothers a lot of people. He doesn't have the best damage reduction, so in Slot 1 especially, he can be susceptible to a lot of damage before he does his supers. So that is kind of like a problem with Gohan. He still is on a lot of great categories, Demonic Power with the Glorio lead, Kamehameha, Earth Protecting Heroes, of course, Full Power, which he leads, Super Saiyan 2, Cell Saga, Battle of Fates, so Gohan is a great character, but I think overall, number 7, I think, is a good spot for him. I think you could say he's tied for 6, but for me, number 6, I think I would prefer this character over Gohan in a lot of situations. Overall, I would say number 6 is going to be the Dokkan Fist and Broly. Now, again, I some days I may swap back and forth, because sometimes Gohan feels like he is that guy, like he is the main character, and other times Broly just does so much where I just remind myself of like why I like Broly so much, even at 55%. But when we talk about Broly now at number 6, right? Broly has a really important leader skill, because I don't like to talk about the leader skills too much, as you may have noticed with some of these characters, but with Broly, this is something I do want to kind of point out, because with Broly, he is leading Uncontrollable Power, he's leading Revenge, he's leading Planetary Destruction. Those, especially like Revenge and Planetary Destruction, those are categories that don't necessarily have a lot of great leaders and Uncontrollable Power. I mean, if we look at that category specifically, there's only 2 leaders for that category. One is the Prime Battle LR, and the other is Broly. So if you need a lead for this category, if you're trying to run this team, you can maybe make a mishmash that happens to work with this category, but if you're trying to run the pure Uncontrollable Power team, Broly is your guy. So in terms of a leader skill alone, that is important value. But beyond that, the thing about this Broly is he is one of, if not the only Brolys to really be focused on supporting his allies. I've said it in the past, I believe, but yeah, he's so good at supporting his other teammates, right? With the intro animation, there's no conditions here. Extreme class allies gain defense plus 40% for 4 turns, so that's a nice kind of start right there. 60% built-in damage reduction, boosting his key per type keys for obtained. He's able to get HP recovery per type keys for obtained as well. When his domain is active, which is only for 3 turns, he will be able to guard all attacks. He's an orb changer, and his attacks will be effective against all types for the rest of the battle if he doesn't attack while his domain is active. So really incentivizes you to use that domain, which is really good, of course. When this character or an ally is in the same turn, right, starting from the 5th turn from the character's entry, so turn 5 to turn 7, he has a revival that protects everyone in the turn with him. So that revival is very helpful, and kind of similar to like the Golden Week in Boo. If any revival is activated, he's boosting his defense, and if it's his revival, he's also orb changing and giving uncontrollable power allies attack and defense plus 60% within his turn. So again, this guy is built to support his teammates, and he does it honestly really good, better than a lot of the characters I would say on this list overall, maybe I would say. But yeah, Broly is really awesome in that sort of regard, and you know, we're still not done. I mean, he still has the active, being able to do damage, being able to create that domain for 3 turns, which is really good, because a big criticism for a lot of people when it came to domains was that domains lasted so long and you couldn't overlap domains. So if you had a bunch of characters who needed to get their domain to be good, if a domain takes too long, then it prevents you from really getting your team to the best position possible before things become really problematic. But with Broly, a 3-turn domain does not last that long at all, and basically it's in, out, you do what you need to do, you get the benefits right here with the attacks effective against all types, and then you're good to go for the rest of the fight. So that's really good. He's able to boost himself and his teammates, so his domain is really good. And he's on some good categories as well, like Uncontrollable Power, of course, your Revenge, Planetary Destruction, he leads those, but Pure Saiyans, you know, Powerful Comeback, other things like that. So Broly, I'm a big fan of this character. Even at 55%, I'm finding that he does a lot of value for me, especially on the teams that he's able to kind of bring together. And also, I mean, with the super attack effects, we didn't talk about it, but he has a built-in ability to stun the enemy if it's possible. He can boost his attack and defense. I'm not a big fan of this potential chance to boost his defense and attack, but still, having the ability for it to happen can be good when it does proc. So, you know, I will give credit to where credit is due. Broly deserves a lot of credit in my opinion. I will say again, you know, some days I may say Gohan is the better of the two. Other days I may say Broly is the better of the two. I think these two you can swap back and forth based on what you prefer and the teams you're running and certain things like that. But for me, I think I like Broly more just because I feel like he covers things that Gohan can't necessarily cover. Broly is taking care of an area of the game with the extreme type teams that Gohan obviously doesn't really focus on as much. So I mean, I understand some of those explanations may seem a bit Mickey, but that's why I have Broly at number 6 in this sort of situation right here. Alright, so we got our bottom 5 out of the way, if you will. Now, before we go into the top 5, let me go ahead and talk about these LRs to consider, because I know a lot of you are probably looking at these characters thinking, why have I not, like, talked about them? Why are they not here? Let's talk about them. So, first of all, I guess we'll talk about Janemba. So, Janemba, I think he's right here. There we go. So, Janemba, you know, when we talk about Janemba, he's a really powerful character. As a matter of fact, I may actually put him on top 10 tied with Frieza. But with Janemba, the thing about him is he's boosting his attack and defense, which is good. He's debuffing, which is good. He has built-in guard, 22% damage reduction built in. He gets to boost his stats per attack performed. He's able to work in slot 1, slot 2, and slot 3 for different things, right? Slot 1 to slot 2, 22% damage reduction as well. You know, slot 2 or slot 3, the additional has a great chance to become a super. He's able to nullify a Ki Blast super in general, great chance to that. And also when receiving a super in general, he has a high chance to dodge it. So Janemba has a lot of utility in my opinion, and when you awaken him into his rage form, which to be fair, it can take a moment to get there, but when you do so, his rage form allows him to change all the orbs. He can nuke with his rage form for the turn, and he can do a lot of damage. So honestly, I mean, his rage form is nice, but really, the thing about Janemba, the reason why I might actually go so far as to say that he's like tied for top 10 is the fact that, you know, he is consistent, right? He stays where he is once he's built up. To be fair, at the beginning, he's probably at his weakest point because he still needs to boost himself up with the stats. But once he does that, once he's in the right positions for you, then he is going to be the same character every single step of the way. When he goes into the rage, when he leaves the rage form, he will still be that same guy. Where, you know, Frieza, again, I think Frieza to begin with fights is a lot better. Maybe even after the 6 turns is gone, he's still arguably better than Janemba, but he does get weaker, and Janemba stays consistent. So for me, like, between those things, I like Janemba as well. I think I'll just put them both tied for number 10. You can pick and choose who you want, but I think Janemba is fair in like the number 10 spot. Alright, I'll keep them tied there. Alright, sorry about that, guys. My audio got a bit scuffed there, but to continue where we were talking about with Tech Gogeta now. So, Tech Gogeta, the thing about this character is, you know, with his base form, it's not that great anymore. As a matter of fact, you know, going into the 10th anniversary, he was really high on my like top 10 LRs, but with the 10th anniversary, his value has dropped significantly to my dismay. But the thing about Gogeta is his base form is not that great anymore. He still has value with the stacking attack and everything, but really the value for this character now comes in the form of his fusion, because with the Super Gogeta fusion, he can do some good damage. He can debuff with the 18 key. He has a lot of damage reduction to offer, guarding all attacks with a Rainbow Key Sphere. He's orb changing, which is going to be important, and also he has a Scouter for 5 turns. He can dodge supers and also nullify melee supers after he does his 18 key, so Gogeta has a lot of value, and the thing that makes him even more special than anything else really is his ability to link up and synchronize really with the 10th anniversary fusions Gogeta and Vegito. Obviously his orb changing, as we'll talk about later, is going to be important for Gogeta in terms of what makes him even more powerful. So, you know, those things for me are why I have Gogeta in the conversation. I think personally I would like to put him at top 10, but I think if I put anyone else on top 10 at this point, I think that's going to oversaturate the list, maybe make it a bit watered down in terms of the top 10 value. But Gogeta, just understand, like, he is right there for me, nip and tuck, and I wish I could put him higher, but I think the base form is not that great, especially now that a lot of fights are really getting going like out the gate. I think his base form is not that good anymore to protect him, so I think outside the top 10 for me is fine, but understand that, like, he's right there. He's probably the closest to being in the top 10 without being in the top 10 for me personally. All right, the two Super Saiyan Blue Evolved Vegetas. So let me kind of talk about them side by side. So obviously, you know, a lot of people talk about the 10th anniversary Super Saiyan Blue Evolved Vegeta and how he could arguably be worse than the 9th anniversary EZA Super Saiyan Blue Evolved Vegeta. So the fact that we're having that conversation doesn't mean well for the 10th anniversary one, but for me personally, I don't think the Int Super Saiyan Blue Evolved Vegeta is a top 10 character. So if the Int version is not top 10, then obviously the STR version, the 10th anniversary version, shouldn't be top 10 either, right? Like, that's just how the logic, I guess, makes sense, right? Like, properties or whatever, math properties, whatever. But, you know, with Vegeta, we'll talk about the Int Vegeta first. So with the Int Vegeta, he has some good value. Don't get me wrong. He has some good things. I've been a big fan of this character for ever since his EZA dropped, right? I've been one of his bigger fans, I would say. But, you know, he does a lot of defensive boosting with his super attack effects, doing the damage, giving allies a crit chance boost, which is alright. Not that crazy, but good. He has 50% damage reduction built in, which is nice. Guard for that first turn, boosting his damage reduction by 10% up to 30%, so this can be up to total 80% damage reduction within a turn. He's able to boost his stats per attack performed. He can do more attack boosting, everything. And also, the best thing about him is that he has a very consistent revive. Starting from the next turn after he receives 5 or more attacks in battle, he will give you a revival guaranteed for every turn he shows up. So I've been a big fan of this revival skill. I've been saying how it is so consistent in so many fights that you take him in, provided you just get him those 5 attacks, which is not that difficult to do. And from there, the revival is there and you can take advantage of it. Once the revival is done, he gets stronger, more key, and the next time his revival is done, he guards all attacks again for the next turn. So Vegeta has some good stuff. His active skill can do attacks to AoE damage to all enemies, so those things are good. And also he's on some really good categories like Successors and Gifted Warriors and stuff, so, you know, he can work onto some good teams. But, you know, for me, the thing about Vegeta with this one, why I don't have him in top 10, is his damage is not that great anymore. You know, it sucks to say, but it is what it is. His damage has aged out a good bit. His revival skill is good, but at the same time, you have to kind of get things set up right, and sometimes nowadays, I will admit, I'm actually floating the Super Saiyan Blue Evolved Vegeta off. So sometimes the turns I need him to have his revival around is not where he shows up. So that's not his fault. I understand that, but I have to say it for what it is. Situationally, I don't necessarily want to run Super Saiyan Blue Evolved Vegeta in slot 1 anymore. So, you know, for me, that's an issue. And also in general, right? So if the first attack that Vegeta takes is a super, 50% damage reduction is not going to be enough to protect him compared to 70 or 80% damage reduction. Now, if he takes a few normals, yes, they'll hurt a bit, but once he gets the normals, the super will not hurt him nearly as bad. But before that happens, right, if the first hit is a super, 50% damage reduction is not enough. He will take some serious damage. There may be times where he gets the revival off himself because he gets cooked that bad. So things of that nature can exist with him. His key can be a bit of an issue, but honestly, I wouldn't say it's the biggest issue for him entirely, but it's a minor thing. And also, his support for allies is really not there. Like, he does give the revival, which is technically a bit of support. He's giving crit chance boost right here. But other than that, he's not giving additional key, no support to the allies. So those things I wish he had. But other than that, I mean, I think he's a fine character. I still enjoy using him in a lot of fights where I can, but I think outside the top 10 is fine for him. The STR Super Saiyan Blue Evolved Vegeta, for me, the best way to describe this character is that he has a high ceiling, but also a pretty low floor. And there's a reason why people call this guy 007. I mean, you know, he can do a lot of attack boosting for himself, stacking attack with the 18 key. He has a lot of potential with a bunch of additionals that can all become super attacks. But the problem is, more often than not, you're not getting those supers. And, you know, he needs those supers, right? To really see the best of him, you need to get the supers, you need to be lucky with him, so there's things like that. Now, he does orb change, that is good. He can boost his defense and damage reduction within a turn, which is good. He has 30% right here for after doing 6 or more supers, which is good, so he has the potential, he has the opportunities, but I think in terms of his ceiling, you're not often going to see his ceiling. More often, you're going to see his floor or close to it. And that is probably why I have Vegeta outside the top 10 as well. He is on a lot of nice categories, though. I will protect him in that sort of regard because Successors is great, Realm of Gods, you know, Tournament of Power, Pure Saiyans, all sorts of things. So he's on a great set of options. It's just his ceiling is really great, and you don't even get to see his ceiling often because more often than not, you're stuck towards the floor. So Vegeta, I'm sorry, Vegeta fans, I hate to say it, but he is outside of top 10. I think we can all kind of agree with that, hopefully. All right, Buhan. I'm not gonna lie, guys. Buhan. The only reason I have Buhan here is because of the Int Super Easy Buhan. If the Int Super Easy Buhan was not who he is, and if he was not here, this Buhan would literally not even be on this list. He would not even be discussed right now. But I will give him some respect because of what the Int Super Easy Buhan is doing for Majin Power and teams of that nature, where basically that Int Super Easy Buhan is doing so much support, you know, being able to do a lot of healing and all sorts of things that make himself so strong, and then that allows Buhan to kind of get into rhythm in his own right. Now, to be fair, you start off as Boo Tanks, you can stack attack and defense, and you have some good utility and gimmicks, right? Like great chance to guard, medium chance to dodge, you know, surviving KO attacks, HP recovery, things of that nature. But the thing about Boo Tanks is he is aged, right? He is not doing the best damage. You need to take time for him to build up, which a lot of fights don't provide. You need him to kind of give you what you're hoping for in terms of the dodging and the great chance to guard. Otherwise, you may notice he does not have a lick of damage reduction in his kit right here. So that can be very, very problematic. Now, when he goes into Buhan, obviously his Buhan self is a lot better. He's able to boost his attack for defense for 4 turns, seal the super with 18 key when you can do so. He's still getting the HP recovery, guaranteed guard against all attacks now built in, high chance to dodge, you know, additional supers, sealing enemies' attacks. He's able to interrupt enemies' attacks when the key is 18 or more at times for like the first 5 turns from the Buhan transformation. He's able to do more HP recovery, other things like that, but again, no damage reduction, nothing like that. So Buhan, I mean, again, the only reason he's here is because I'm giving respect to the Int Super Easy Buhan, what he's doing for that team, and the fact that this allows Buhan now, this LR Buhan, to have more comfort and more opportunities to get himself going in a safer space. But he is still susceptible to a lot of damage. He is not the same as he was a year ago, which makes sense. And, I mean, if we're being honest, I mean, this character, you probably won't even run him on a lot of teams because a lot of the teams you want to run, he doesn't necessarily kind of find himself in the best position for those teams to be at their best peak, right? Like, uncontrollable power, he can be on that team. You wouldn't really want to run him given all the other options that exist for that team, though, right? So that's what I mean in that sort of regard. But still, Buhan, I'll give him some credit here. Family Kamehameha Gohan. So this Gohan is a character that I was really excited to see coming into the anniversary, and just like the Tech Gogeta, his value has dropped significantly. Same can be said for the Super Saiyan Trio, but focusing on Gohan right now, right? The thing about Gohan is in his base form, you know, he has some good things to offer, you know, the chance to stun, the support for superclass allies. He can do a lot of damage, of course, with all the additionals and him boosting himself up. The infinitely boosting key is nice, of course, you know, when there's another Kamehameha ally or Earthbred Fighters ally in the same turn. He has built-in guard. He has high chance to dodge enemies' attacks if HP is 77% or less, so he has some good things to offer you. But in his regular form, the thing about Family Kamehameha Gohan is that he's not really meant for slot 1, right? We all knew this when he first released, is that he's not meant for the slot 1 role. But the thing is, nowadays, you wouldn't even want to put him in slot 2, because there's other better characters for that specific position, and that means you're basically floating him off. And even then, you're like, why take Gohan at that point when I can just take some other characters in that sort of sense? So, Gohan, he's kind of like in this limbo position where you're like, what do I do with Gohan? Where does he go at times? Because Sometimes you're forced to put him in slot 1, which you know is not going to be great for him, but hopefully you can figure something out with him. Other times you know the best thing for him is slot 2, slot 3, but there's other characters for those roles. So it's like a weird kind of position for Gohan. Now, to be fair, I wouldn't say I don't know if anyone felt that this part of Gohan's kit was the best of what he had to offer. If anything, the best of what he had to offer was his standby, which is for 5 turns. Obviously in his standby, he is more so focused on being a defensive value kind of asset, right? So not able to attack until doing the finish skill, but he has built-in guard, built-in 77% damage reduction when all allies are super class characters, and also when he's receiving an attack, he's able to boost his defense. So his tanking ability is good. There are times where I'll say, even with this though, I've seen him take damage, and I'm like, what is going on here? But beyond that, you know, Gohan is still a good value with the standby. But also the biggest thing for this is his finish skill, right? Because his finish skill can do insane nuking level type damage, and honestly, I mean, with a 5-turn standby, he can do so much building up for that finish skill, and he can do a lot of damage. But now a lot of fights aren't able to be beaten just by this finish skill alone. So the whole family Kamehameha can do a lot of damage, but it won't be enough to end the fight. So I think nowadays Gohan has reached a point where his value is starting to drop off because bosses are tougher, they're ready to go out the gate, other things of that nature, and also the teams that he's on, some of those teams, they don't need him in the spots where he is probably at his best, right? So those things for me, I think that's why I'm going to go ahead and keep Gohan at the outside of the top 10, although I will say he's pretty fun to use even at this point in time. So you can go back and forth on that. MUI Goku. MUI may be getting some flack I may be getting some flack for MUI Goku being outside of the top 10 here, but I know some people have MUI in top 10 specifically because of his turn 1 value with the whole guaranteed dodge built in. And this is definitely one of, if not the best parts about MUI Goku, is that for short-term fights like Formidable Foes, that first turn that he shows up, he has the built-in dodge and he is safe, protecting you in slot 1, no questions. But for Goku, it's only been a year, to be fair, but he is already starting to show the signs of regressing, if you will, to his old kind of dodge or die kind of setup, where basically he will dodge. The first turn he's safe, unless an opponent is like guaranteed attacks, in which case the dodge is nullified, so that will suck. But if he's able to dodge that first turn, he's fine. Beyond that though, if he's dodging, he's good. If he's not dodging, he is taking a bunch of damage because he has no built-in guard, no damage reduction, so those things missing means he is a dodge or die type of character at this point in time. I've seen him take a lot of damage and it's so frustrating, but it is not his fault. He is getting older, of course. The meta is just changing, so naturally it was bound to happen. But credit where credit is due. MUI is still a great character for a lot of fights in the first slot, for at least the first turn. So credit where credit is due there. And also his revival is pretty good as well. There are a lot of situations where your HP will just naturally fall below 77% because of how hard bosses hit. So because of that, MUI has a pretty good available kind of revival skill available. Now, it depends on whether or not you will be able to get it, because obviously MUI could dodge and, you know, be safe, and who knows what will happen, but his revival being available, that is good. And obviously when it happens, he'll get another turn of guaranteed dodge. So all that is good, being able to do a nice bit of damage right there. So yeah, Goku, I think I gotta give credit where it's due. He's a great character, especially for turn 1, but beyond that, I know he's a dodge or die type of character. I have seen a lot of situations where he can be susceptible to a lot of damage. I know there are quite a few fights now where, you know, dodge is now being nullified, so the only way to protect his value as a character is to bring the Tech UI Goku, who I love the character, but I don't even think he's on this list anymore himself. But yeah, those things, I think that's why he's going to be considered for me for number 10 or number 9, but any higher than that I think is ridiculous, and for me, he's just outside top 10 for me. Okay, finally, before we go into our top 5, so let's just talk about the Super Saiyan Trio. So, I realize I took a long time with these characters here, but the Super Saiyan Trio, so if I can find these guys wherever they are, the Super Saiyan Trio, the thing about them is that they are a very good character in quite a few teams, and the best thing about them really is their support, right? The support has been one of the best things about this character in terms of their value, what they're doing for other teammates, but nowadays they have aged out as an individual unit. They're taking a lot of damage in certain situations. The good thing about them is a lot of fights now you can debuff the opponent, so the 12 key especially, being able to debuff enemies is really good. Providing support for superclass allies with the 18 key is good. So those things can be helpful. They're orb changing, which is nice. You know, they can do a lot of work, but it's the support. The support is the biggest thing for them. And while the support is good, you don't necessarily want to run a double Super Saiyan Trio lead anymore compared to some of the other units and the other leads you can run on the teams, right? So that's an issue right there for them. Also, this is kind of like a minor issue, I guess, or maybe a major one depending on how you look at it, but a problem for this unit is they are not on the 2 fusion leads, right? Where you know, for Super Vegito and Super Gogeta, we'll talk about them later, of course, but they lead a lot of good categories, and yet the Super Saiyan trio happens to not fit onto any of their categories, right? Because they are not pure Saiyans because of Gohan and Trunks, excuse me. They're not on Fused Fighters because there's no fusions, and they're not a part of Successors or Earth Protecting Heroes. So because of all that, they're not able to work with the fusion leads and everything, so they're missing out on a lot of potential opportunities there. So yeah, for me, the trio, I love this unit so much, but for me, I think they're outside the top 10. Their standby can be useful. You wouldn't probably want to go to it, but it is for 3 turns. They can be pretty good defensively, you know, guard all attacks, you know, a nice boosted damage reduction, so they can be good. But yeah, I mean, overall, the trio I think is outside top 10 for sure. I don't think there's really any ifs, ands, or buts when it comes to them specifically. All right, now that we got the interlude out of the way with these LRs to consider, let's go back to our top 5 now. So now we can get into the fun characters. So starting off with our number 5, we have the 10th anniversary GT Goku, Super Saiyan 3 into Super Saiyan 4 GT Goku. And this character, man, I love this character a lot. I don't have this character, unfortunately. I am probably going to get him with the Memorial Stone because my luck is just not doing good right now with the banners. But this character has a lot of good value to offer. Now, you can definitely say that his best form is his Super Saiyan 4 form, which makes sense. But even in his base form as Super Saiyan 3, he has some good stuff. So boosting attack and defense is nice. Having a high chance built in for crit chance right there, right? You know, being able to provide 50% defense for Power Beyond Super Saiyan allies is good. But also for the first 4 turns, great chance to dodge enemies' attacks and also guarding all attacks, boosting attack and defense per key, like, you know, for every 3 keys. So he's got some good things to offer, and this is just to start things off. Now, you can say this is like a double-edged sword, if you will, because he's got some nice things to offer, but obviously his best part is in Super Saiyan 4, and also, like, obviously that means he's going to get better as the fight gets longer, but also that means in short fights, Goku's going to start off kind of weak, right, compared to his best self. So it's like a double-edged sword, I guess, but still, you know, this is still pretty decent for a character who you're trying to just basically bide time until he reaches the next level. Now, of course, you know, it can transform into the Grade 8 for 1 turn when HP is 70% or less, or starting from the turn 5, so pretty easy conditions there. Goes in the Grade 8 form, you know, only the 1 super attack right there with the 18 key super, but also, I mean, he can do a lot of damage, built-in crits, and once this turn is over, he's going straight into Super Saiyan 4 Goku. There's nothing to worry about there, and Super Saiyan 4 Goku is when this guy becomes him. I mean, look at the art. You can already tell this guy is like that. So we talk about GT Goku now. He's able to stack attack and defense. He's able to provide a lot of support for allies for 2 turns, which is really, really awesome. He's able to give himself a good amount of ki, you know, able to give a lot of support, by the way. 70% defense and 10% damage reduction increase for Giant 8 Power or Power Beyond Super Saiyan allies. So think back to like the Saiyan Saga Vegeta. He's in Giant 8 Power. He can get up to technically 70% damage reduction if you have this character by his side. This character, of course, you know, built-in guard, you know, crit chance right there, guaranteed crits for the first 4 turns, boosting attack and defense for the every 4 key right now. Of course, you know, 44% HP recovery. This character offers a lot of value and also infinitely raising his ki, boosting his crit chance. So if you ask me, this character is really, 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 really awesome. So I really do like this character. He's on a lot of great categories like Uncontrollable Power, Revenge, Earth Protecting Heroes, Giant Form, you know, Giant 8 Power, which he leads, of course. Other things like that. GT Heroes, which is going to benefit a lot with him being a part of it. Accelerated Battle, of course, you know. So this character is really good. Now, why do I have him at the top 5 as opposed to any higher? Well, the thing for me is that GT Goku, I think, is weaker. I think we can all agree he's much weaker than the fusions, and in terms of what he offers, I think his value isn't overall as great nowadays in a lot of situations as some of the others on this list. So that's what I'll say there. But Super Saiyan 4 Goku is still really strong, don't get me wrong. There may be, I would say there's probably a gap between number 5 and 6 for me personally, because that's just how much I like Goku and the others on this list that we still have to talk about. So that's why I feel there. Number 4. So number 4 for me, that's going to be going to the Tech Carnival Broly. So, Tech Carnival Broly, you know, if we talk about Broly, the thing about this character, and I will say the same thing can be said for Beast Gohan to a degree, right? But, I mean, both characters kind of fit the role of, like, a character who is filling a power vacuum, or a vacuum, if you will, for Slot 1 characters. Because, as we all know, with the 10th anniversary, a lot of the characters and the EZAs and everything have been beneficial for characters to work in Slot 2 or Slot 3. And that is all well and good. I have no problem with that. But because of that, what is now happening is there is an open role that needs to be filled, which is a good slot 1 character early on. And Broly is one such character who fits that really well, where in his base form, 90% damage reduction in slot 1, he is chilling. He is big chilling. He is not worried whatsoever. He is fine. Then he can transform into a legendary Super Saiyan. Of course, he has 50% damage reduction to start, but also up to 76% damage reduction for the first 3 turns. He has a lot of power right here, of course, being able to do AoE supers with the 18 key, greatly raising attack, of course, with the 18 key, so stacking there. He has a built-in guard, 200% damage, 200% defense, before attacking, so slot 1 viability is still good for him. He's able to boost his crit chance and all these things, interrupt attacked enemies when attacking with 24 key, so yeah, this guy is really nice. And also, he's able to boost his stats in battle, starting from the next attacking turn after becoming the legendary Super Saiyan. So this guy is really, really powerful. He's on some good categories like Uncontrollable Power, movie bosses, legendary resistance, Inhuman Deeds, Power Beyond Super Saiyan. So, I mean, this character is fantastic. I really do love what he has to offer. I think he does fit the role of a slot 1 trustworthy unit pretty well. I think the only time where I will say Broly doesn't fit that moniker as well is probably as a fight takes really long, because by that point, you had to transform Broly. You miss out now on this 26% damage reduction. So now is the point where Broly could probably start to become a bit weaker. But other than that, slot 1 is like Broly's bread and butter. Like, that's where he's meant to be. So honestly, I like Broly. I think what he offers is really good. And for me, number 4 is a great spot for him. I understand that some people may like Broly a lot more, but for me, I think, Beast Gohan is going to be the next one up. We're going to talk about him. He's going to be going at number 3 because he just offers more overall, in my opinion, than Broly, as a lot of people will probably agree. But, when we talk about Beast Gohan, so I've said it before, I'm going to keep saying it. This guy is like a jack of all trades type of character. His leader skill, to be fair, nowadays you wouldn't necessarily want to run a double Beast Gohan lead. Now you probably run Beast Gohan, but just under a different character lead, like the Vegito lead or something. But he's still able to do a lot of work, boosting his defense, able to stack his attack if I recall correctly, so that's actually a really nice boost right there. The unit super is able to provide some value with its disabling enemy action and stuff and boosting crit chance, so that's nice, of course. But the passive skill is important, so he's able to fight out the gate. He has a bunch of damage reduction, built-in guard, able to give ki to allies after taking an attack. For every attack he's receiving before he does his own attacks, he's boosting his attack percentages within the turn and his crit chance, so that's good. After performing 5 or more attacks or taking 8 or more attacks in battle, he's further boosting crit chance and damage reduction, giving more ki to allies. So he has a lot of good things to offer, and he still has a taunt. This is what makes him different, in my opinion, than Broly, is that he has a taunt. So the taunt, it is so easy to activate, and the taunt, of course, it just protects allies for that one turn, so that is nice to have, of course. But yeah, Gohan, I think the way that the 10th anniversary fights have been oriented has really benefited Beast Gohan more than anyone else, in my opinion. Or he's definitely, maybe not more than anyone else, but he is one of the most biggest beneficiaries of the whole 10th anniversary content, because most of it is short form fights. It's fights where you need a slot 1 character. Gohan fits both of those things pretty well. Now, I will say, because recently we got the Saiyan Saga EZAs and everything, and a lot of new content for part 3. With the new content, there are some red zone fights that take longer than 5 turns and everything, so because of that, Beast is losing his intro. And I will say, I've said it before, the problem with Beast Gohan is that if a fight takes too long, if he's losing his intro, he loses a bit of his damage reduction. Now, he will get some damage reduction when taking an attack, so that's fine, but if that first attack is a super, he will take a good amount of damage. Now, I don't know if that would necessarily get rid of Beast Gohan and end the run. It can happen, I'm sure, but more often than not, it won't. But still, he will take a lot of damage, so it is tough. I've seen some people justify the fact that Beast taking damage is a good thing, because then that means you can go into the next turn, get MUI with his revival up, and GG's are cooking. But let's be fair here. Just because Beast is able to take damage and get MUI's revival up and running doesn't mean that Beast deserves credit for that, right? Like, I'm not going to give Beast Gohan credit for taking lumps just so that MUI can do his thing, right? If anything, the credit should be towards MUI, because he's the one who has such an easy to access revive, and he's able to cover for the fact that Beast is taking damage in that sort of regard. Now, I realize I'm probably going to start sounding like a hater, but I'm not hating on Beast Gohan, because obviously he's on my number 3 list. I mean, come on, he's number 3. But, for me, I think I like what Beast Gohan has to offer. I am thinking that some of the new fights are going to challenge Beast Gohan a lot, because they're going to force Beast to lose his intro and everything, so we'll see how he performs there a bit more, but he still has a lot of good things to offer, so we'll see how he goes. But so far, definitely a fantastic character. Still really crazy how strong he is, considering he's a year old. This guy's a year old, and he is still handling business. He is locked in, so I'm happy to see it, but yeah, Beast Go on number 3, I think is a good spot for him. All right, finally, our 1A, 1B. So obviously, 1A, 1B, we're going to have the 2 fusions, Vegito and Gogeta. By the way, now let me go ahead and say this. I've seen some people say that Beast could be like 1A, 1B, 1C with the fusions. I've even seen some people say that the fusions are overrated. They should be lower, and Tech Broly and Beast should both be higher than the fusions because of their slot 1 value. So let me just say this. So first of all, if you guys want to say that, if anyone wants to say that Beast Gohan is on par with the fusions, okay, I can see where you're coming from. I understand that the slot 1 viability is so important for you that that's why you're giving Beast probably that edge. So I can understand that. If anyone at all says that Beast is above the fusions, or Tech Broly especially is above the fusions, y'all are out of your mind. Like, I'm not trying to pick a fight. I'm not trying to hate on anyone. I'm cool with everyone, but people, I think, are tripping if they think that Beast Gohan or Broly are better than the fusions. At best, you can say that Beast is on par with the fusions because he's able to fight out the gate. He's still able to get slot 1 value. So I will accept that some people want to say that Beast is on par with them. Me personally, I don't think so. I think the fusions offer way more overall, but I will accept that. Anything more than that is a bit too much. But now let's talk about the fusions. So with the fusions, right, we'll start with Vegeta and Goku, right? Like, we'll start with both, right? Because we could talk about both, right? But both kind of, in my opinion, are designed so similar to one another that you have to put them as a 1A, 1B type situation. Because some things Vegito does that are better, and some things Gogeta does that are better for him. So there's kind of like a back and forth in that sort of regard. But, when we talk about, Gogeta first, let's talk about Gogeta. The lead is not as good as Vegito's because, Successors is not as great of a category, but Fuse Fighters is nice, Pure Saiyans is nice, so that's good. Stacking attack, working in slot 2, slot 3, guarding all attacks, a lot of boosted defense is good. You can exchange into Goku by turn 4, then he becomes a slot 1 character, able to stack defense, and also a lot of built-in dodge and guard against all attacks in slot 1, so that's all really powerful in my opinion. A lot of ki as well, by the way, which is really nice. And then, when you fuse into Super Gogeta, this guy becomes him. This is one of those him fusions right here because he's massively raising attack and defense for 1 turn, fully recovering HP, 60% damage reduction, guarding all attacks. This is an important thing, by the way, in my opinion. Nullifies negative effects. I think some people are probably going to underrate this part of his kit because this is actually kind of special for him. So him having that's really awesome. Additional 18 key supers, which is awesome. Guaranteed crits, of course. The support is nice. Being able to have a scouter for the turns he's as a fusion, so that's good. And also, for every rainbow key sphere he's obtaining, he's boosting his attack and his damage reduction. And this makes him actually work really well with the Tech Gogeta, who changes orbs into rainbow key spheres, so that can be really helpful there. With the active skill, ultimate damage, giving all allies attack and defense plus 54%. The support is so crazy. Orb changing for himself, attacks effective against all types, so yeah, this guy is really awesome. And we're still not done because I actually missed one important thing, which is the failed fusion. So with the failed fusion, I will say this is a really nice thing to have with the Veku fusion, because with the Veku fusion, right, you have to do when you're Goku, you are able to go ahead and get ultimate damage to the enemy. You're able to delay a single targeted enemy's attacks just like an Usher, and you're getting guaranteed dodge for 3 turns. So that means that there is a lot of utility to be provided for this specific kind of failed fusion. So that's really awesome. This character is on some really good categories, of course, a bunch of categories because of the tag, and also things like movie heroes, which is really awesome because movie heroes as a category is one that benefits a lot. So, being able to see that category do a lot of work, that is really awesome. So I'm glad that he's on that category. He's on a lot of great categories. Fantastic character for sure. We go ahead and move on to Vegito, right? So Goku and Vegeta, I will say, I think they have the better lead, right? Earth Protecting Heroes is a better category because it covers things like Super Saiyan 2 Gohan, Beast Gohan, Carnival, LR Family, Kamehameha Gohan, things of that nature. You still have Fuse Fires, Pure Saiyans, all that sort of stuff, so that's good. Same kind of design though. So, starting off with Goku here, slot 2, slot 3 kind of value, raising attack and stacking. This character has built-in damage reduction, so that's pretty good for the first few turns, especially 50% to start in general. So that's really good. You can exchange into Vegeta turn 4, then it becomes a slot 1 character with stacking defense, 50% damage reduction guaranteed, as well as bonus damage reduction when taking an attack. Slot 1 guards all attacks, so he can do a lot of nice things there. His active skill for the failed fusion is just giving him some bonus stats in battle and guards all attacks in battle guaranteed, so it's an okay thing, but I will say I don't think this part is as good as the failed Veku fusion. And then when we go into Super Vegito, Super Vegito is insane because with Vegito, right, he's also able to recover HP, guards all attacks, 60% damage reduction built in, an additional 18 key super. His 18 keys can greatly raise attack and defense, so not as high as the Gogeta, but still it's there. And also, I mean, he's providing nice support, and for every attack he's performing, he's boosting his crit chance. So not guaranteed crits per se, but he's able to boost his crit chance pretty well. And this is really important for him, is he's able to boost his attack by 10% within the turn for every attack he takes, supers or normals, and he's countering every normal, and also he also has a scouter for 4 turns. So, just like Gogeta, this guy is really powerful, and his active skill, of course, gives him a lot of defensive boost. All attacks become guaranteed crits, and also he's getting every single attack thrown his way because he has a taunt. So, yeah, I mean, when we look at Vegito, just like Gogeta, is kind of nasty. I mean, there's a reason why people say that the Gogeta-Vegito fusion is one of the most dominant rotations in the game, period, right now. So, it's awesome. But when we talk about these characters, I will say, again, I think they belong as a 1A, 1B type of situation. Obviously, both fit onto a lot of categories, some different categories in that sort of respect. But at the same time, both are really awesome. And when we compare the two, I will say, I think Vegito has the better lead compared to Gogeta. We'll see how the 7th anniversary EZAs with the fusions kind of change things, maybe. But for now, I think Vegito has the better lead. Gogeta, when we go into like the Vegeta and Goku kind of design, I think everyone can agree that Goku, especially to start things off, is better for the first few turns than Vegeta is on this kind of Gogeta unit, right? So basically for the first few turns, like for the first 3 turns and everything, the Tech Goku unit is better than the AGL Vegeta unit. But when you go into Vegeta, right, when you exchange into their slot 1 kind of counterparts, then I would say the Goku is the better character because he has a bunch of guard, which means he's not even, or not a guard, but a bunch of dodge. So he's not even taking damage most likely. He's got the guard, he's got a nice key and everything to get himself a lot more in terms of supers and all this sort of stuff with the defense. For Vegeta, the damage reduction is good, but I just don't think he is as great comparatively speaking as the AGL Goku. And then, when we talk about the active skill here for the failed fusion, I think everyone will agree this is probably one of the areas where Gogeta gaps Vegeta and Vegito in that sort of regard, where the failed fusion for the Pataras is just a stat boost, it's guaranteed guard. That's nice. The stats is good because then that helps with the stacking, but at the same time, this is an Usher. This is built-in dodge. And I will say from experience, there are times like, with like the new red zone stages, there are times where you need a safe card, not just for you need something to protect you, not just like Gogeta or Vegito, but also the other allies on your team. And this is almost like a taunt, quote unquote, where basically you go ahead, activate the Usher, and the whole team is safe from every single form of damage imaginable. So that's really awesome. Of course, it's only on one single targeted enemy, but still having that is really helpful. So I think the failed Veku fusion clears the failed Potara fusion. And then when it comes to Super Vegito and Gogeta, you can go ahead and go back and forth in terms of what you like. Me personally, I've always been a fan of support, so I like the Gogeta more. I think the animations are a bit sexier too. But the active skill, I like the booster allies attack and defense. I like the fact that he is able to boost his damage reduction a lot and nullify negative effects. Again, I think this is going to be a bit of an underrated thing for him. But I do like what he has to offer in this sort of aspect. For Vegito though, I can't deny, when you go into Vegito, this guy is practically deleting bosses, especially with the support he gets from the others, right? With the support, with the taunt, with the build up and everything, he is able to do so much damage. He's able to practically get one like really powerful boss and get them almost to like no HP whatsoever. So honestly, you can take your pick. If you like Vegito, you like Vegito. If you like Gogeta, you like Gogeta. But I think at the end of the day, we all can agree they deserve to be 1A, 1B side by side. If you want to go back and forth, that's up to you. But I think that's a perfectly good kind of setup for there. So there you have it. That is my top 10 LR list. That took a long time. Hopefully you guys were able to bear with me. If you did, thank you so much, of course, for your support and everything. But there you go. So to kind of recap, of course, these are my LRs to consider. They could be in the conversation, but just outside of top 10 for me. So Tech Super Gogeta, the 10th anniversary Super Saiyan Blue Evolve Vegeta, the in Super Saiyan Blue Evolve Vegeta, Buhan, Carnival LR Family Kamehameha Gohan, AGL MEY, the physical Super Saiyan Trio, and number 10, I'll have them tied here, AGL Full Power Frieza, and the physical Janemba. Now, me personally, I will say, I will prefer Frieza because I think he's overall better, especially early on. But Janemba is a bit more consistent. He doesn't get weaker as the fight progresses, so we'll go with that. Number 9, Saiyan Saga Vegeta. Number 8, Super Saiyan 3 Gotenks. Number 7, 10th Anniversary Super Saiyan 2 Gohan. Number 6, Int Dokkan Fest Broly. Number 5, the Super Saiyan 3 Super Saiyan 4 GT Goku from the 10th Anniversary. Number 4, Tech Carnival LR Broly. Number 3, Beast Gohan. And number 1, I guess 1A, 1B, tied for number 1, Super Gogeta, and Super Vegito. And you know what? I kind of like this list. I feel confident about it now that I've talked about it with you guys and shared my thoughts. I feel confident more so now than at the beginning when it comes to how I have this list ordered. But yeah, let me know what you guys think about it in the comments down below. Again, if you guys enjoyed the vid, be sure to drop a like, subscribe to the channel, of course, show your support. Comment down below again your guys' thoughts on the list and everything. If you guys would change it, let me know what you would do. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you all in the next one.